Welcome everyone to Talent Skill Tree episode 6. Today's Friday. I am loving it and I am super excited and just super grateful to have my next guest on the show. Jon, welcome to the show. Thank you so much. We were just chatting before our call here. We were having a good time like two old friends having a beer over a bonfire. And as you can see, smile from ear to ear. Just so happy to have you on the show. And Jon, how's it going?
Oh, Justin, this is the best part of my week already. It's so great chatting with you. So many shared memories of the gaming life that we've both lived. Maybe a little further back into the 80s than either of us want to admit.
That's okay. I'll take it.
Just a blast already.
We were just talking about our elder millennial memories back in the day, memory lane, but it's good memories. But super excited once again here, Jon. And it's just to give you some background information, everyone. It's funny that Jon and I really didn't cross paths until recently. We kind of been in the same industry, in the same space of video games and technology and staffing and talent acquisition. But it wasn't until recently where we had a common bond as far as commenting on each other's posts and tagging each other, which we'll get to a second. But I want to talk about your background here, Jon, because the reason I wanted to bring you on the show is because I view you as an industry expert. You have a great background, tremendous background pedigree in the companies that you started with. And I wanted to let you explain, where did you come from? What are you currently doing now? And the type of projects that you have on the horizon here, if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. Especially since that takes us on a direct path to talking about our recent game of tag that resulted in this podcast right here.
There you go.
Boy, for the past 20 plus years, I've been with largely big tech. So the Apples, the Amazons of the world, all talent acquisition. So all that hiring that I know is your bread and butter as well, that going out there and making sure that people find their way into companies and have a great time doing it, by the way. This includes some of the entities that worked in gaming at Apple, though maybe not as directly as somebody who works for a Nintendo or a PlayStation or a Blizzard. And then, of course, at Amazon, who does have a formal gaming team down there in Irvine. Yep. Same thing, which has just been fantastic. A couple of years went into the AI world, which so many people are now finding their way into. So in this case, voice AI with a company called SoundHound AI. And now I've actually taken a career industry first pause for myself and just welcomed our first little baby to the world, who, let's just go ahead and take a look at her right there. That's
there Lexi. You go. Look at that smile.
Yep. Statistically,
my
the
goodness.
cutest baby ever born.
I think you got that message, right? Trey adorbs, as they say back in the day.
It's adorable.
Totes. Look at that bow. Now, I don't see the mother involved, but does she get more of a resemblance from your mom or from you, or both, would you say? So I see the eyes, and the twinkle in the eyes are the same.
You can tell by the fact that she's cute that she did not get a lot of my genes. So
that's
great for her. Just fantastic for her. She has her mom's smile, her mom's eyes, her mom's nose, and my laugh. So she got, I think, scored mostly.
There you go. Hey, that's a good combination.
I think she has my hairline right now too.
Oh, she has your hairline right now. Thanks for sharing that. That's so adorable.
But to your point around that industry trajectory, alongside this time that I'm taking to just baby to the world, recently joined a gaming nonprofit called Games for Love, which you can find at gamesforlove.org. Part of their board now, leading their people and culture functions. So excited to be part of them. I know something.
Is that official? Because I know. So before this call, I sent Jon a link. I was like, hey, here's the calendar invite. And I said, can I ask for your email address? And I thought he was just going to give me a Gmail account, but he gave me a Games for Love domain. And I was very intrigued. I was like, wait a minute. So is that official now that you can say that you're part of the board of Games for Love?
That's official. I couldn't be more excited. And that speed is a testament to the agility and effectivity of this group. Look, coming from Amazon, that's a place where people get stuff done. I've never seen a group as organized, as effective, and as driven by purpose and mission as the folks at Games for Love. I could not be more honored.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Games for Love, because that is a passion for me too as well. I loved to see if there's any way I can get back to the community. That's part of the reason why, honestly, too, I started this little old podcast channel. I was just telling John before, I was like, I used to stream back in the day. I love his setup, the nano leaves. I see the Yeti microphone. And I was like, that brings me back to my day. Started doing these podcasts with just AirPods and everything. And I just got my Yeti microphone out of the closet. That's been collecting dust for about 3 years. So I love and so the reason why I did this is because I want to get back to the community. And I think that in anything in life, whether it's business or romance, whatever, if you get to that certain plateau, you got to stay grounded somehow. How did you get there? Do you feel gratitude? And because if you don't, you quickly fall off, right? And so I love to get back to me. And that's part of the reason why I do these channels. Explain to the audience out there and to our community about Games for Love, because we did get intertwined. And I want you to share that story with us.
Well, Justin, this borders on like a rom-com script. So I'm just going to say this is like a Matthew McConaughey, maybe Kate Winslet, I'm thinking, perhaps sort of a kismet sort of thing, because my path to Games for Love actually started with a post that you made that then ran through a whole initiative that you and several others are involved with Amir Satvat. And essentially, it's this big mentoring population that's really just here to help each other. So there's some 400 or 500 people in this right now. If anybody listening is interested, go over to Amir Satvat's page, post about it weekly. It's one of the most incredible community stories that I think have been written in my 20 plus years of talent acquisition. And this is not limited to gaming. This is industry wide. Never seen anything like it. Truly incredible. So Justin, you posted about how to get into gaming. One of the biggest questions out there right now. So many people look at gaming, and myself included, as sort of that thing that you would do if you could do anything. And some people even would work in gaming for free, right? Like if certain people won the lottery, we might be playtesters, possibly for Blizzard, right? There's that population that includes me. And you posted about ways to get in, and somewhere down that list, and I've referred some 50 or so people over to that post, by the way. Somewhere down that list was, hey, maybe consider getting involved with a nonprofit so that you can create some claimables, some network. And one of those that you listed was Games for Love. And when I sat down and said, I have some time right now, and I have what might be some expertise that could add value, I reached out to Nathan Blair, the founder at Games for Love. We came up with this opportunity to maybe do a little bit of a fundraiser, which if anybody visits my LinkedIn page, you'll see is something that we're still doing right now. We've raised more than $2,500.
Oh, wow.
$10,000 goal.
Congrats.
So ultimately that led to brainstorming, which led to putting plans together, which led to, hey, would you like to be part of this? And my answer was, I feel like I already am. So that's going to be a hard yes for me.
And so you also did a video. I remember the video on your post, and you explained, why does Games for Love resonate with you? And again, before our call, we kind of touched based on the power of gaming. And so I think a lot of people resonate to, and they hold an affinity to, where there's been studies shown music is therapy for the soul, and it does help out with a lot of challenges and obstacles in life. And then most people don't realize, and this is so true, with video games, you have more elements than just music. You have the entertainment side, the gaming side aspect of it, and then you have the video visual side. And then last but not least, you have music, which for Final Fantasy is so known for music. And I talked about this with my last guest too, as well, where he was a voiceover actor, where having all three elements are, part of that. And so with the therapy and giving back to the community and everything else, you had an interesting story. Can you share why that resonated with you and why you got into why Games for Love actually stuck out for you?
Absolutely. And it actually runs through, we were talking about gaming cartridges earlier, and it has a lot to do with that guy right there, which if anybody happens to watch that video, we talk about this super abridged version. One of the primary value propositions that Games for Love creates for the world is giving gaming therapy to children in hospitals around the world. That is the primary mission. They've done this for millions of kids already. It's still a fairly new nonprofit, so we're growing very rapidly. But they've already succeeded in putting millions of hours worth of gaming into hospitals. This means working with children's hospitals to build gaming into care protocols so that it's not just a Nintendo Switch that's sort of sitting in the corner of a room. It's something that a doctor has training on how they can integrate into a kid's care journey. So they know when the pain gets big, here's a way to look away. When the loneliness or the sadness creeps up, and we all know mental health and physical health are inextricably linked, more so every day. And so, we'd like to think at Games for Love that this is actually in some really meaningful ways saving lives. But so I was that kid at one point. In 96, I was in the hospital for months and months and months for some surgeries. And that was when this very Pokemon cartridge came into my life. And exactly your point, Justin, it allowed for an escape that was necessary at the time. And while video game practice isn't always about escapism, in that case, it was the music, it was the visuals, it was the quest, the dopamine kick of reaching another level or discovering that Pokemon that allowed me to really get through a really, really tough chapter. And so when Games for Love, when I understood their mission, I saw something that really in a lot of ways, I believe, saved me, and that I want to make sure is available for as many kids around the world as we can. And the more people get involved through initiatives like our League of Pros, which is ways that anybody can come and even play video games and help these kids, let alone all the other ways to take part, including career opportunities to develop your own skills, exactly to your point of that original post, Justin. And I just want to make sure as many kids as possible can have that same experience.
Awesome. I love it. I love the initiative behind it. And there's a famous streamer out there, Dr. Lupo, and he is known for doing children in hospital charities, and he does it every year. And it's the stuff like this in our community that makes me proud to be in our community, because not only we're getting away from the stigma of a neckbeard and the stigma of stoners. And nothing wrong being a stoner, but I'm just saying there's nothing wrong being a neckbeard, but there is a stigma and stereotype to it. And it's not only just those certain personas, it's everyone. So you can be a child, you can be an adult, you can be an older generation, a more mature generation, you can be a female, male, you can be non-binary, whatever the case may be, it's meant for everyone. And so I love initiatives like this. I still have it on my bucket list to go ahead and do some events. I want to see if I can mentor as well, but that's great. With Games for Love, not only that, going back to our community, and I think the biggest question that we get asked a lot, and you being an industry expert, since you've been around major companies, major FANG, and then also working with a lot of great other experts out there, is the challenge right now with the tough market and the massive layoffs and the massive rifts. How to get it, not only how to get into gaming is one challenge, but the other challenge is you're fighting against clone, or you're fighting against people who have been in the industry a lot longer than you. A lot of the boomer generation, which we kind of talked about before the call too as well, are sticking around and kind of taking away those opportunities from millennials and Gen Z, because they don't want to go into retirement. And then also because a lot of the companies are forcing them to stay, and then saving money by laying off all these people and then just having the boomers stay. So that's been the toughest challenge that I want to say. But before we dive right into that here, we talked about challenges, and you brought up a very interesting challenge that is kind of off topic. But I want to bring that up here on this episode, because this is a challenge too as well, if everyone remembers it.
So this right here, folks, and trigger warning.
Trigger
for
warning.
Anybody who grew up playing this game. I don't know about you, Justin, but this game kind of taught me how to cry, because holy smokes, just wrecked over and over again. Battletoads, for anybody who's only listening on audio, just games were different back then.
It really was
about progression. It was about you reach a certain point and there is a skill drawbridge. And there was a point, some of us remember asking our parents to help us
to be certain levels. Yeah. Now, did you play with friends, or did you have a sibling that you played Battletoads with, or were you a solo player?
That was the friends. That was the neighborhood kid. My dad was a long haul trucker, and so I would travel the country with him. We grew up living in a very small town called Paradise, California, way up in Northern California. And so we would travel the country during summer times with school, and I would save up all summer and literally every cent that I would make working with him, traveling the country, would just go right into video games. And so that was I turned my house into the video game hub for my whole neighborhood. And so we would get sometimes 10, 15 kids over,
Yeah.
and we sort of take turns. And I didn't know it, but that was my first time actually building a community. And
Okay. Yeah, it really is. So you had 10 to 15 friends trying to beat Battletoads, and you guys still couldn't beat Battletoads.
We crowdsourced this thing and still came up short. I don't know what the end credits look like on this game. I probably never will.
Oh yeah, I played with my brother, and we would get so frustrated that we would start fights with each other. We would tackle each other and beat each other up. You need to play better. No, you need to play better. When I tell you to jump, you jump off the hoverboard. That game brought back memories. So thank you for bringing that up. But that is a challenge. So as the tough market that we're in now, and going back into the gaming market, some of the challenges. AI is coming out, right? And so AI is there to help out with the challenges. And I noticed that your background is in AI, that you said that you went to school for it, and you're a huge ally for AI and technology, and just want to be a student and learner and sponge. What are your thoughts right now with the current market, and what are your thoughts on the newcomer of AI technology?
The biggest topic in the world, right? If you want somebody to read something, you're talk about AI, but don't let AI talk for you, right? And I think that right before this actual recording started, we were talking a little bit about AI as a tool, not as a sort of driver, not as an autonomous set it and forget it. Like so many ads, anybody who's scrolling Instagram while listening or watching this, you've probably seen 2 to 3 ads of make $100,000 a month like the 13-year-old does. And there's just so much of this out there right now. To answer your question super directly, Justin, around my perception, one person's perception of AI and its role right now. I think that AI is one of the most powerful tools we've ever seen. It is a F-35 fighter jet that still requires us to point it in the right direction. And it doesn't really do anything meaningful if you don't really give it direction. And this isn't just about prompt engineering or going in and finding some new way to describe your prompts in ChatGPT, GPT-4, or really any of the other emerging AI products out there. I think it really has a lot to do with authenticity and what we use as inspiration, which I think AI is such a powerful inspirer around helping to learn and helping to look in new directions, especially around career, to bring this back to the gaming community and career, especially now that GPT-4, like Bard, is able to reference online with the right plugins. You can look and see current state internet information. This is starting to have very real impact on people in their career searching, and rightfully so, because it gives you good information. What it shouldn't do is give you your script. It should give you inspiration to reach out to somebody like Justin, but it should not give you, and here are exactly the words you should copy and paste based upon this creepy level of stalking that we've just done through his online persona, right? Not helpful. And it certainly doesn't help accomplish your goal. But what I think AI is starting to do is it's starting to create time for people who are starting to really get the hang of this thing. And I think that ultimately will manifest, and I hope that it does manifest, into more meaningful community building. And you look at gaming, right? I think that gaming, this thing that we do, that we work in, that we participate in, that we belong to, I think that gaming, it engages us on so many different levels that it is inherent that community will develop, because there's so many other ways that we can have connective tissue with each other. It's not just a sports team that you might have in common with somebody. It is a way you spend your time. It is a social engagement mechanism. It is an accomplishment tool. It is a set of memories. And in some cases, even like a whole way of perceiving the world. If somebody's spent 500 plus hours playing World of Warcraft, they can see the world a little bit differently, right? And that, I think, comes back to community in this way, because when AI continues to unlock time for us, we can be who we really are. And I think JD Rue, one of the chief talent officers within Blizzard, recently posted about the importance of reflection and how representation really occurs for people in the gaming world. And I think that as AI gives us more time, we can engage more meaningfully in gaming and build community. And I think that comes down to representation, like JD was talking about, in the form of no matter who you are, you can show up the way that is authentic to you, agnostic to gender, agnostic to appearance, agnostic to able status, anything like that. And I think that's incredibly meaningful. And maybe not everybody views the world that way, but I think it's going to change things for us. And I know it's a weird path from AI to representation in gaming, but I think it's happening, and I hope it happens faster.
That's some great insight there. And it's really a tricky topic, and we kind of mentioned this before in our previous talks, is it's a tricky topic to talk about because it's so passionate right now in the community, whether they're against it, whether they're for it, a lot of frustrations, a lot of emotional ties to AI, because that's going back to the challenge, right? So the challenge in our community is how to break into the video games industry is the hot topic that I get approached a lot. And then the other challenge, of course, we kind of mentioned this, is the clones and the competition challenge. So we get it. I don't think anyone is blind to the fact that it's a frustrating economy, frustrating market right now. And so it will probably have some backlash. We're having some people with strong voices, I want to say. And that's kind of a topic that is tricky because it is so new and we're still experiencing it and we're still learning and we're still finding out what's the best practices and what are not the best practices. And I wrote a post about it too. And just to highlight it real quick and touch base on what you just said, because I think we both firmly agree that we're allies to AI. It's just how you execute the AI technology, and using it as a tool is perfect spot on language, because I use the example all the time. It's like Wikipedia is a tool, or Google is a tool. You don't want to copy and paste what you Google search or Wikipedia search to someone, because they're going to call you out. They're going to say, this doesn't make sense. It looks like you just copy and paste it. And that's the same thing with AI. If you use it as a tool, it should give you at least a guide and a ruler on how to draft the message and so forth. But make sure you do take the time to put in your spin, put in your flavor, and make it make sense in a natural format. Because a lot of times AI has these hallucinations where they may make assumptions that could be considered a lie. And you don't want to get caught in line, especially in the job market, is all we're trying to say. I'm not here to, John and I are here not to say that you shouldn't use AI. We're not here to say that you should. All we're trying to say is, here are some tips and advice that we're navigating this journey together. Let's find some best practices. And I think that's a really good point that you brought up here, John. Well, wanted to segue into here, John, and the community. I think we're all circling back to the community, how we found each other in the community. But again, our previous discussion, we talked about this before. The community is actually growing, and people are so mind boggled when we say that. They're like, Justin, John, the community has been around since 30 years ago. What are you talking about? There's Super Mario movies. And I'm not talking about on the surface merchandising stuff. I'm not talking about on the surface video games or even esports or streaming. I'm talking about a community where active voices are actually on the rise. Elements like giving back to the community, where you're providing therapy for children, elements of voices, industry experts of giving advice on how to break into the community. We have Erin Goldsmith, who is my colleague, talks about a great story on how she didn't have any gaming experience and how she was able to break into the gaming. Voices in the industry, and then research topics like Amir Satbat, like you just mentioned. He has all these resources and statistical data that shows the trends and stuff like that. And even on LinkedIn, which is the largest professional network, if you do a search right now for the hashtag video games, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a guess. What do you think the number is? If you go on Twitter and you do a search for video games, I guarantee you it's in the millions. But what do you think the number is on LinkedIn, which is the number one job resource place? It's less than 200,000. It's mind-boggling, right? So the community is growing in that sense. So I do want to make that very clear. John, I am grateful to be part of the community with you. And when we talk about the community here in the podcast show, on John's shows and platforms, we are talking about that specific community. So very thankful for that. You're part of the community. How else have you seen the community grow?
It's been, the gaming community, in my opinion, has transformed in the last, really, I think COVID was probably the main impetus for this, where we went from gaming being perceived, and again, this is one person's perspective. I don't have, unlike Amir, I don't have a well-documented Amazon-esque level of data to justify this perception. But anecdotally speaking, it felt like COVID invited a lot more people into gaming in meaningful ways. And for some, that was picking up their first mobile game. Maybe that was playing a game that was perhaps made by a Zynga or a Tencent. For others, that was re-entering gaming. I, for one, started to play WoW Classic during
COVID. Like, I did too.
And that was a way to both cope with a world of realities that were not always super exciting, and also a way to really leverage some of this time at home that we had. And so, you look at some data that is out there, and there's a couple people whose voices I listen to within this community really closely. Yours is one of those, Justin, to really call that out. You mentioned Aaron Goldsmith as well. The things that you talk about are so current and so on the nose when it comes to careers and the direction of the industry. It's incredibly valuable, I think, for anybody who's looking at or getting into the world of gaming, or who just wants to get a signal of. And I think that second group, that includes people like Andrew Chen over at A16Z, who runs their games fund, a $600 million investment by Andrew Horowitz, right? People like Annie and Jeff Strang of Britannia Media, some of the most progressive, most, in my opinion, innovative voices out there with Opportunity Space, Crop Circle Games. Those folks, if you look at what they talk about publicly, you're seeing references to community in a way that makes sense on a lot of levels, especially Andrew Chen over there at A16Z, where there's thought now way past just how are we funding studios. Now we're talking about infrastructure, and we're talking about secondary supportive apps that even facilitate sales, like Epic, for example. Epic, when they came up on Fortnite, they didn't really have a great marketplace built yet. They had the Unreal Engine, to which in gaming, we owe so much to Epic for what they've done and created and invested into this world. But their investment into their storefront, in a lot of ways, much like Apple and the App Store, it gave the ability to monetize and thusly justify and create this place that so many more people have come together, including Ninja, like on your sweatshirt, and Dr. Lupo, and so many others that found their voice through Fortnite in this case. But I think that the gaming community, to bring it back to the central point, I see the gaming community growing meaningfully. I see it growing sustainably. And most importantly, I think I see it growing inclusively, where the stigmas of old have really, to your point, you said it so beautifully, Justin, the stigmas of old have really started to drop away. And yes, saying I'm a gamer, if you wear a t-shirt that says I'm a gamer, there are people that are going to have perceptions about that. And maybe that's not what we choose to wear when we go out into the world. But when you start talking about gaming in a professional capacity, it's not just a hobby that is a time waste that a lot of people maybe once thought. It is a social engagement tool. It is a community building skill set. And honestly, it's something that I think not only investors like A16Z, but also big business is really starting to think about. This is a $300 billion industry that dwarfs the rest of entertainment together. And somehow we still have to justify why that is. And I don't think we are anymore. I think people are really starting to say it's great to be a gamer because I'm participating in something meaningful. And it doesn't matter if my gender expression, it doesn't matter any other piece of my identity, I'm welcome there because I get to show up as whoever I am. So that's see this sort of hockey stick ramp that we've just started to enter. And I think that gaming, before the end of the 2020s, you'll probably have like an 80% global population participating in gaming in some way.
Absolutely. Spot on. You mentioned the shift, COVID, and I agree with you completely. I think within the last 3 years, everything has shifted dramatically. And I've always preached this in my career is, and since I'm in tech, the one advice that I can give anyone, and it's just one piece of advice, is be adaptable, because in technology, it changes rapidly and you have to be on top of that. Just like with AI tools, just like with tech stacks and software engineering or programming, you have to be adaptable. And going back to COVID, it did open up a lot of doors because a lot of people were working remotely. You couldn't go into an office. You were banned from going into the office. So it forced a lot of people to find entertainment and other resources that they normally didn't have because they were stuck at an office during the day. And it's mentioned that you World of Warcraft Classic. I did start that too as well. And I kind of loved it, hated it, because back in the day when I played World of Warcraft vanilla, everyone remembers the 8 to 12 hours of raiding, because back in, for those who don't know, World of Warcraft vanilla raid bosses, you had to complete in a deadline or it gets erased, right? And then also those raid bosses, we didn't have YouTube videos, we didn't have game facts. It was all by word of mouth on how to beat these world bosses. So we were all there trying to beat these world bosses and raids just on the whim, and just doing it naturally. Progression. It's like, okay, we tell you how many times I died, trying to beat the first boss in Molten Core. So I know that name brings back memories. But going back to what I was saying, as far as the pivot and the adaptation of the community, and I get this all the time too with new colleagues, they talk about, wow, I never played gaming. And what is a gamer, right? Whether you play Candy Crush or you play Wordle or some type of entertainment, it gave us an opportunity to explore that option. And so a lot of people picked up the Nintendo Switch. I know the Nintendo Switch had one of the highest breaking sales. I couldn't find a Nintendo Switch. I actually was one of those statistics and tried to get a Nintendo Switch at the time. And it took months and months and months before I landed one. And I had to pay a premium on eBay. So that right. And then a lot of us started taking gaming seriously, and also another great example is E3. So E3 was stapled in our memories. I remember watching the E3 of conventions, and I've always wanted to go to an E3 convention, because I remember like the Mortal Kombat, when Mortal Kombat 2 first came out, they did a great presentation of, they had like these fighters, the actual actors of the game, and came out and did a presentation, and ta-da, here's Mortal Kombat 2. And it wasn't advertised on YouTube or anything like that. You had to be there, right? So with E3, Jeff Knightley does these streaming events like the Game Awards and Summerfest for games. And with E3, he talked about, why the E3 canceled this year and why Jeff Knightley's new platforms are the staple now. It's because I believe that Jeff adapted. And when the doors were shut down for conventions and the doors were shut down for in-person events, people didn't really, they didn't level up and find a way to still engage the community. And Jeff found that way. He was like, you know what? We don't need a physical location. We're just going to do this online. And he did it, right? And then everyone started watching it. And then all the studios started coming to Jeff and say, I want to be on your show and do a world premiere. They're not going to these other competitors. And that's because he adapted. And so that just happened just this year. So again, it's so mind-boggling. It's like, but Justin, gaming's been around forever, but I think everyone's paying attention now and the community is growing. And I love being part of this community here, Jon, with you. I love conversating with you. These conversations have been great, as you can see, smile from ear to ear, and also good for the soul, especially with Games for Love and what you're doing. And of course, your daughter definitely helped. We're probably gonna get millions of views for your daughter alone. But I love to end we're running out of time here. So I love to end my show with this tradition here that I have. I mentioned positivity, inspiration, and personal development. I always try to incorporate it into my shows, because it is a tough economy out there, everyone. We understand. We're doing the best we can, trying to help out, trying to be part of that community, whether you're being paid for your service as a consultant or you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart, like Amir and tons of other people out there. We're still helping out the community, and we're in this together. So you can leave me with if you can grant us your knowledge and expertise or advice or story that can be maybe a motivational or inspirational for everyone during this tough market, what would it be?
Oh boy. Well, I would say maybe a short story, and then if I could be so bold as to say I have any wisdom, maybe a snippet that would be that. The gaming does, I truly believe, save lives. And I don't think it's an oversell to say that. And I think that especially for people who find themselves in crisis, who find themselves in maybe a chapter of life that is temporary, that feels like it's going to be permanent. I think that gaming gives not just an escape, but a way to reach out and connect. And, I am the incredibly proud parent of a member of the trans community, a kiddo that has been part of my life for many years and who I am the biggest fan of in the world. And having asked their permission to share this element of their story, I think that gaming was formative in saving them, despite a chapter that was really tough and is for many members of many communities, including those who are part of the trans community. And so I think that it's okay to lean into it. It's okay to say that this is a safe place. It's a safe place on purpose. And there's a lot of people out there wanting to make sure that it's safer every day. Despite, to your point, Justin, sometimes we get, the neckbeard designation, which is not always perhaps somebody that's perceived as the most inclusive, but even that person finds community, right? And escapes to that place. So that, I think, brings to the small tidbit, if I can share one, is what's going on right now with this mentoring that is largely centered on and anchored on the work that Amir does for no money, by the way. This incredible amount of volunteering that he does that inspires so many of us to also volunteer. This is a testament to how many people there are out there that are giving of their time, of their expertise, that are opening their networks only because we love this stuff. And gaming is unique in that way. In my experience, I've never been part of anything else where somebody would say, I'm going to take uncompensated time away from family, away from pursuits, even away from gaming. And there's a lot of great games to play right now. Like, this is an unprecedented time of gaming. And to step away from that to help people, just reach out, go on. I think Justin and I both have posts on there about this, or you can find Amir on there or message me. I'm totally open, ready to talk anytime, even for direct mentoring for anybody on this podcast listening. But reach out, because there's people there. You're part of a community that is singular in its inclusivity and its excitement for people to not just join, but to progress as part of it. And I'm really proud of that. I'm proud to be part of this community. And I'm really grateful to you, Justin, for creating even more of a voice than you already do. So you're just fantastic. All gratitude, man.
Thank you. And such inspiring words. And I'm grateful too, as well, and I think gratitude, we kind of talked about this before, Jon. It's a lot about your character, with gratitude, being humble, and doing things for the goodness of your heart, right? And so I think that's an excellent way to end the show here, Jon. Thank you for your time, your expertise. You mentioned family, you mentioned giving up your time. I've always said time is the most valuable thing on earth. It's very precious. How do we use it and how do we utilize it? Shows a lot about your character. And for you taking the time out of your day to come on here and talk about the gaming community, it's really inspiring. So thank you, Jon. Wonderful episode here today, everyone. And I hope you guys can really appreciate this content. Go check out Games for Love. That is a great segue to that right there. Yeah, as you can tell, he's a streamer. Look at that background. Gamesforlove.org, everyone. Please connect with Jon. Please connect with even the QR code. Look at that. You're showing me up here. I will get there to your level. Trust me, I just gotta go back to my closet and get all my old streaming stuff. But hope you guys
ahead. You have to come back. It's a shoot, not a ladder.
Yeah, but I appreciate it. And I like to end up with the episode here as on a tradition again. I love saying this quote when people message me on LinkedIn, but it's true. The world can always use more heroes, and happily loving up everyone out there. Thank you.